What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Brain Gap Phil here. I thought we would do something a little different that we haven't done in a very long time and look into some mysterious, spooky, horror, but real stories that were never solved. So this time, I don't know if you guys ever heard about it. It's someone similar to what you see in the movies with Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Maybe more Jason Voorhees, but you remember Leatherface is not really based on a real person. It is per se. Leatherface, the movie is currently out. The series, if you haven't seen it, is based on the murderer by the name of Ed Gein. I believe he used to dig up graves and make household items like masks and clothing from the human skin that he would find. But he did not necessarily use a chainsaw. But of course, eventually he did get into some other nefarious activities. This one here that I need your help on to fill my brain gap is around the Axeman of New Orleans. You ever heard of him? The Axeman of New Orleans. So this is a very interesting story. So the Axeman of New Orleans was actually a serial killer who gripped terror through New Orleans from around May 1918 through October 1919. So roughly a little over a year. So there were some reports that were going out within the local news that these grisly murders were happening. And the victims were mostly Italian grocers. They were attacked at night by mostly what they could describe as a mysterious axe-wielding intruder who actually would escape, leaving almost no clues. So they could not find this guy. He killed around 6 people. They were wounded, most of them. He killed some of them. Some survivors had the inability to describe who he was beyond saying that he was a heavyset, dark man. He usually broke in through the doors of his victims, and he would do that with a chisel. And then reports were that he would perpetrate the crime with an axe that he would find on the premise. So he would never have his own axe. He would just find one at the house and use it on those people, which is kind of interesting. So if you look at some of the actual murders that took place, which were pretty brutal and written about pretty heavily, there were a couple and they could see some patterns. So like I said, he targeted the Italian Americans, breaking into homes at night, chiseling off the door handles, finding an axe that they have, and then would attack the victims. So on June 27th of 1918, one of his victims, I believe it was Louis Besemel and Harriet Lowe, they were attacked. And Harriet later accused Besemel of being a German spy. So she actually said, hey, this person I was with was a German spy, which is why this person attacked. But she actually ended up dying and he did not. Very interesting. Never looked into that guy to see if he was an actual German spy to see. I don't know if that means he's deserving of death, but the German spy thing is a little twist right before she died. Not much more about that. In 1918, I think August 5th, you had Miss Schneider. She was actually a pregnant woman. She was assaulted and she actually survived, but of course could not give a full picture of the axe murderer himself. And then on March 10th, Charles and Rosie Cormiglia, probably said their last name wrong, forgive me. They were actually attacked and actually resulted in the death of their 2-year-old daughter, which is very sad. So you had a couple of attacks that were actually documented in the paper. And then on March 16th of 1919, the Times-Picayune, which is a news agency out of New Orleans, which I believe may still be around today, they actually published a letter that the Axeman sent to the editor. It was from an individual, right? He claimed to be the Axeman, so they couldn't really say it was, but here's what he said. So he wrote this. They have never caught me, and they never will. I am not a human being, but a spirit and a fell demon from the hottest hell. Then he announced an attack that was going to happen at 12:15 a.m. on St. Joseph's Day. But he noted that he was very fond of jazz music, and he would spare anyone playing jazz music or with a jazz band in full swing that night. So if he could hear those noises, that music being played, he would actually spare that person's life. And what's interesting about this is throughout New Orleans, jazz parties started to quickly be organized at cafes and bars and all over town. that evening, the date that he said, to ensure that they were not attacked. So the Times-Picayune actually ran a cartoon of frenzied people running around attempting to put on these concerts and play some music in an attempt to accede to the Axeman's request. So it was very, very interesting, these soirees that would happen. And there was actually a composer by the name of Joseph John DeVia. He put out an actual song. It was called, he wrote his piece, I think it was While He Waited for the Axeman. And it actually was played to a tune just saying, while you wait, you party, you revel, to ensure that you are not the next victim. So the Axeman was actually never, ever, ever caught, which was very, very interesting. There have been some theories out there about the Axeman itself, and I'm curious to see which one you think is true. So some of the theories were, A, that the Axeman had some mafia connections. You heard in the beginning that one murder was a person pointing towards a German spy. So maybe some mafia connections, since many of the victims were also Italian grocers. So maybe there's some connection to the mob there. The second one was just that he's a single individual, a maniac. So he was just a lone serial killer, had a psychological disorder, and he was just attacking people by his lonesome. The other one was there were multiple people involved. So there were some inconsistencies in some of the attack methods of the victim profiles. So some argue that there was a helper or helpers around helping the Axeman get away with this. So, really in conclusion, no one knows. There's still a lot of confusion, a lot of mystery. These murders were never solved. So it's one of America's greatest unsolved mysteries. And whether he was a supernatural being, a deranged killer, a mob enforcer, it's really cemented as one of those things that we may never know. But have you looked into this one before? Do things like this creep you out? Did it boggle your mind? Is he still walking around today? If he's supernatural, he would be. Think about it. Lock your doors. Play some jazz music. Keep those sounds playing, so you will never be the next victim. But let me know what you think in the comments, because I don't know. You tell me. I'm just trying to fill my brain gap.